The crash, an unwanted visitor. The night sky was quiet. Stars shined above the forest, and only the sound of crickets filled the air. Jason Miller, a 17-year-old boy, walked alone with a flashlight in his hand. He loved taking walks through the forest trails behind his house. It helped him think. He didn't expect anything strange that night. But then, it happened. A loud sound cut through the sky like thunder. Jason looked up. A bright light was falling from the stars, fast, glowing red and orange. It looked like a meteor, but it was too big, too controlled. It was a ship. Boom! The ground shook under his feet as the object crashed deep into the forest. Trees broke. Birds flew away. Smoke rose into the sky. Jason froze for a moment. Then, without thinking, he ran toward the crash. His heart was pounding. He had never seen anything like this before. The ship was half buried in the ground, tilted and burning. It looked like metal, but not like any plane or satellite he had ever seen. It was smooth, silver, and covered in strange blue lights. The door of the ship was open, like something or someone had already come out. Jason took a careful step closer, and then he heard it, a soft sound, like a whisper or a cry. He turned and saw her. At first, he thought it was just a girl in a strange suit. But then he saw her eyes, glowing softly in the dark, and her leg. It was made of metal, not like a human prosthetic. It was alien. She was lying on the ground, breathing hard. Her suit was torn, and she was bleeding, dark purple blood. Her skin was pale blue, and her face showed pain and fear. Jason raised his hands. "Hey, I'm not going to hurt you." She looked up at him. She didn't speak, but her eyes, they were full of something he recognized. Not alien fear, but human sadness. Jason slowly moved closer. He pulled off his jacket and gently covered her. "It's okay. You're safe." The girl tried to speak, but only strange sounds came out. Jason shook his head. "I don't understand, but I'll help you." She pointed to her leg. It was sparking, broken, useless. She couldn't move. Jason took a deep breath. He didn't know what was happening, but one thing was clear. She needed help. He gently lifted her in his arms. She was light, lighter than a human. Her body was cold to the touch. As he carried her away from the crash site, he looked back at the ship. It was still burning, and in the distance he could already hear helicopters. Jason brought her to an old shed near his family's farm. It was hidden, quiet. He laid her down on a blanket and checked her wounds. He didn't know alien biology, but he used basic first aid. She watched him carefully, confused but not scared. He noticed something. Her metal leg had strange writing on it. Symbols he couldn't read. But it looked advanced, far beyond anything on Earth. After a while, she slept. Jason sat nearby, thinking, who was she? Where did she come from? Was she alone? The next morning, Jason went to check on her. She was awake and watching him. He smiled. "Morning. Do you have a name?" She blinked. Then she touched her chest and said, slowly, "Ilya." Jason pointed to himself. "Jason." She nodded slowly. They didn't need many words. For now, names were enough. Suddenly, Jason's phone buzzed. A news alert. Unidentified flying object crashes near rural area. Military searching the forest. Locals warned to stay away. Jason looked at Ilya. She was watching the phone too. Her eyes widened. She understood. "They're looking for you," he said. She nodded once, slowly, and looked afraid. Jason stood up. "Don't worry. They won't find you. I'll protect you." She didn't understand his words, but something in his voice made her believe him. For the first time, she smiled just a little. That night, Jason stood outside the shed, looking at the stars. Just yesterday, he thought he was just a normal boy in a quiet town. But now an alien princess with glowing eyes and a broken leg was sleeping under his roof. And he had no idea that she was going to change everything. Jason didn't sleep much that night. He kept checking the shed every hour, making sure she was still breathing, still alive. The crash, the fire, the glowing-eyed girl. It all felt like a dream. But when morning sunlight touched the sky, and he peeked inside the shed again, she was still there, sitting now, awake, watching him. Ilya. That was her name. She had said it slowly, like the word itself was heavy. Jason had repeated it a few times in his mind. Ilya. Sounded soft, sad almost. She looked better in the light. Tired, yes, and hurt. But her body seemed to heal fast. The wounds on her arms were closing up already. Her suit had small blinking patches where the fabric was fixing itself. But her leg was still broken. Sparks popped out every few minutes. It was made of metal, connected by glowing wires that looked alien and advanced. He had never seen anything like it. Jason stepped inside, holding a tray bread, a bottle of water, and a few apples. Ilya tilted her head. She didn't understand the food at first. She stared at it, then at him. He took a bite of the apple, smiled, and offered one to her. She reached for it slowly. Her fingers were long and thin, her skin smooth like glass. She smelled it first. Then she took a tiny bite. Her eyes lit up. Jason laughed softly. Yeah, he said. Good, right? Ilya nodded. Then she looked at him. Really looked, and did something unexpected. She copied his smile. It wasn't perfect. A little awkward. But it was real. They didn't speak the same language, not really. But that didn't stop them from understanding each other. Ilya pointed at objects and said strange, soft words in her tongue. Jason responded with the English version. Apple, he said. Water. Hand. Foot. Leg. When she pointed to her metal leg, her smile faded. Her face changed. Her eyes darkened, just for a second. Jason paused. He didn't say anything, just nodded, then gently tapped his chest. Still you, he said. Ilya looked confused, then thoughtful, and then grateful. Over the next 2 days, they built a rhythm. Jason brought her food, helped her move around, and tried fixing small things on her leg with his tools. She showed him a small device, a palm-sized screen that translated a few words, basic phrases, enough to begin simple conversations. But one thing never changed. Whenever she looked at the sky, she seemed sad. Jason noticed it the second night. She was outside the shed, sitting under the stars, staring up. He sat beside her. You miss it? He asked. Ilya looked at him, then pointed upward. Home, she said, in her soft alien voice. Jason nodded. You'll go back one day. She shook her head, firmly. No, exile. He looked at her. That word, exile, hit him like cold water. He hadn't expected it. Why? He asked. Ilya touched her leg. Broken, weak, unfit. She said the words slowly, one by one. Jason felt something twist inside him. Anger, maybe, or sadness. You're not weak, he said. You survived a crash. You're learning a new world. That's strength. Ilya didn't answer, but her eyes glistened. They sat in silence for a while. Then Jason pulled something from his pocket. A small toy, a broken action figure he used to play with as a kid. One leg was missing. See this guy? He said. He still won every battle. Ilya took the toy in her hands, studied it, then looked at Jason. No leg, she said, pointing. Still a hero, Jason replied. She smiled again, a little wider this time. That night, something shifted between them. She wasn't just a stranger anymore. She wasn't just an alien. She was Ilya, someone who had been thrown away, hurt, left behind, and somehow, she had found her way here, to him. And Jason, he had never mattered much in this world. Just a quiet boy in a quiet town. But now, someone needed him. The next morning, Jason entered the shed with a box of parts. Old radios, wires, tools. Ilya's eyes lit up. She moved forward, pulled pieces from the box, studied them, sorted them. She knew tech better than him. Together, they started building. Not just repairs, but trust. Each piece connected wasn't just for her leg. It was a bridge between her world and his. They didn't speak much that day, but they didn't have to, Because something unspoken had begun. A story neither of them could see yet, but one they were writing together. Jason thought he understood her. She smiled now. She ate human food, even helped him repair the old tractor engine just by looking at it once. Her fingers moved like she was born to understand machines. But Elia, the girl from the stars, still carried something hidden. Something heavy. It showed in the way she looked at her reflection in the water. Quiet, sad, like she was looking for something, or someone, she had lost. Jason noticed but didn't push. Instead, he brought her old earth junk, radios, scrap, wires. She liked those. Her hands came alive when she worked. That evening, he brought her the small panel he had pulled from her crashed ship. She had never asked for it, but he thought she might want to see it again. Ilya stared at it. Then something changed. She took the panel in her hands. A soft blue light flickered from it. She pressed 2 fingers on the surface, whispered something in her language. The panel came to life. Glowing symbols, a circle spinning slowly in the air. Jason stepped back. From the circle, a voice began to speak. Harsh, cold. The language wasn't English, but Jason could feel the tone. Angry, distant, unforgiving. Ilya's face went pale. The voice continued. Then it stopped. The spinning light froze midair and turned red. Jason looked at her. What was that? She closed the device. Slowly, carefully. Her hands trembled. Then she looked up. Message, she said. Her voice was flat. From home. Jason nodded. What did it say? Ilya's eyes didn't meet his. She looked past him, through the shed's open door, toward the dark trees. They said, I failed, she said, her voice cracking slightly. They said, I am no longer part of them. Jason sat down across from her. He said nothing at first. Let the silence sit. Then, gently, because of your leg? She nodded once. Not strong enough. Not perfect. Not royal. Jason felt his stomach twist. That's insane. You crashed here and you're still alive. You've done more with your hands than I could with 10 textbooks. But Ilya didn't answer. She stared at the dark panel in her hands. I was next in line, she whispered, to rule, until the accident. Jason leaned forward. What happened? She hesitated, then spoke in slow pieces. There was fire, explosion. My ship sabotaged. My guards died. I lived, but she touched her leg. They said a leader must be whole, must be strong. She looked up. This time her voice was louder. They said I would bring shame. Jason couldn't believe what he was hearing. They threw you away, he said, because you survived wrong. Ilya nodded. I asked to prove myself. They said no. They sent me away. They called it a test. But I knew. It was exile. Jason felt anger rise inside him. He had never punched anyone in his life, but if those aliens were here now, you don't need their throne, he said. You're more than they ever saw. Ilya's face softened. She closed the panel, put it aside. Then she looked at him, really looked. Why do you help me? She asked. I am not your kind. I bring danger. You hide me. Feed me. Why? Jason thought for a moment, then smiled. Because someone should have, he said. Because no one deserves to be thrown away. Ilya blinked, then nodded. That night, while Jason slept in the house, Ilya sat outside the shed, watching the stars. She turned the small panel on again, not to hear the message, just to watch the light. She stared at it, not with sadness now, but with something else. A new question. Maybe she didn't need to go back. Maybe she didn't need their approval. Maybe, just maybe, this strange planet, full of noise and dirt and kind boys with broken radios. Maybe this was where she'd find her real strength. Not in a throne, but in healing, in building, in being seen, in being enough. The night was quiet again. No ships in the sky, no voices in her ear, just wind in the trees, and a boy who believed she mattered. And for the first time in a long, long time, she believed it too. Ask ChatGPT. Ilya watched a leaf fall. It spun in the air slowly before landing near her hand. She picked it up, turned it over between her fingers, and whispered a word in her own language. Something soft, almost like a name. Jason didn't ask what it meant. He was sitting on the porch, sipping tea. He had learned, by now, that Ilya spoke in layers. Not just with words, but with long silences, small gestures, and eyes that always seemed older than she looked. In the days that followed the message from her home, something inside her had changed. She still helped with repairs, still ate quietly and watched the stars, but now, she listened more. To everything. The sound of wind in the trees. The laughter of Jason's little sister, Lily. The way Jason grumbled when the old tractor refused to start. Even the music on the radio, which she found strange, but not unpleasant. One afternoon, Lily brought her a drawing. It was messy, colorful, full of hearts and stars. In the middle was a tall blue figure with big eyes and a glowing leg. Next to it stood a boy with brown hair and a crooked smile. "That's you," Lily said proudly, pointing at the blue figure. "And that's my brother. You're friends now." Ilya took the drawing like it was a sacred object. "Friend," she repeated. "Yep," Lily grinned. "You're cool." Ilya didn't know what cool meant, but the way Lily said it made her smile. Later that night, Jason found her staring at the drawing again. Her fingers traced the lines slowly. "She likes you," he said. Ilya looked up. "She is kind." Jason nodded. "She doesn't see your leg, or where you're from, just who you are." Ilya paused. "On my world, kindness is not common. Weakness is punished. Feeling things is dangerous." Jason leaned against the doorway. "Here it's the opposite. Not feeling makes you dangerous." She tilted her head. "Strange." "Yeah," he said with a half smile. "But good strange." Over time, Ilya started copying human behavior. Not perfectly, but close. She watched Jason fix a motor and tried it herself. She used a spoon instead of her hands. She even tried wearing jeans once, though they were too long and made her laugh. Jason showed her how to write her name in English. She wrote it 10 times, slowly, like carving a mark into this world. Then one day, she found an old DVD on the shelf. A movie about space, aliens, and war. She watched it in silence, expression unreadable. Halfway through, she whispered, "That's not what we are." Jason looked at her. "What do you mean?" "The aliens in your stories," she said. "Always enemies, monsters, cold. We are not like that. Not all of us." "I don't think you are," he said. "I never did." Ilya nodded. "But many humans will fear. If they find me." Jason cut her off gently. "They won't." Her gaze met his. "You cannot promise that." "No," he said. "But I can stand with you if they do." She looked at him a long time. "That is rare. On my world, no one stands for someone broken." Jason shook his head. "Then your world doesn't know what broken really is." Later that evening, as the sun dropped low, Jason found her standing in the field. Her leg clicked with each step, sparks still faintly flashing, but she stood tall. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Learning how to walk," she said. "The Earth way." He smiled. "You're doing pretty well." She turned to face him. Her voice was quiet. "I want to learn more. Not just walk. I want to understand humans." Jason thought for a second. "Okay, let's start small." That night, he showed her how to make pancakes. She burned the first 2, laughed at the third, and flipped the 4th one perfectly. Then he taught her to say thank you. "Thank you," she repeated slowly. "For what?" Jason asked. She looked at him, serious now. "For seeing me," she said. And just like that, something new began. Not a rescue, not a mission, but a transformation. She was no longer just the broken princess of a distant world. She was someone who was beginning again. Not in a palace, but in a kitchen, holding a spatula, smiling like she had finally found her place in the universe. And maybe, just maybe, she wasn't lost anymore. It began with a sound. Not loud, not sharp, just a strange buzz in the wind, like a radio signal that didn't belong. Ilya heard it first. She was sitting near the barn, helping Jason fix a broken drone when her head suddenly lifted. Her eyes narrowed. She stood slowly, like an animal sensing danger before anyone else could see it. Jason noticed. "You okay?" She didn't answer right away. Her fingers touched her ear. Then she whispered, "They're here." Jason froze. "Who?" She looked at him, her voice flat. "Not my people. Not soldiers. Worse." That night she didn't sleep. Neither did Jason. She sat at the window, eyes scanning the sky, her mechanical leg humming faintly. Jason paced the room, checking doors, covering windows. He didn't know what was coming, but her silence told him everything. In the morning it began. The cows in the nearby field scattered. Birds flew off in the wrong direction. And from far in the woods came a flicker, like metal catching sunlight, but too precise, too timed. Jason saw it. A figure, tall, armored, not human. Then another, and another. 3 of them, silent, moving without sound, without hesitation. Ilya stood behind him, her breath held. "Hunters," she said. Jason's voice was tight. "They're looking for you." "No," she said. "They're not looking." He turned to her. "What do you mean?" "They already know where I am." Jason felt ice in his chest. "How?" She pointed to her leg. "They can track it. A signal." "I forgot." His heart raced. "Then we have to go." Ilya hesitated. "If we run, they follow. If they find your sister, your family." Jason didn't let her finish. "Then we stop them here." For a moment, neither moved. Then Ilya reached for the box of tools. She pulled out wires, batteries, old circuit boards. "What are you doing?" Jason asked. She didn't look up. "Turning this place into something it was never meant to be." They worked through the afternoon. The barn became a workshop. Old machines were wired into traps. Drones were rebuilt into eyes that could watch from the sky. Jason's tools became weapons. Not to kill, just to delay. To protect. Ilya moved faster than he'd ever seen. She barely spoke. Her face was calm, but her eyes were burning. She was scared, but not for herself. For him. As evening fell, the first signal came. A low hum, not sound, but pressure rolled through the fields. Jason grabbed the walkie. "They're close." Ilya nodded. She placed her hand on the ground. "I feel the steps." Jason looked out the window. "We could still run." Ilya shook her head. "They don't stop. And this time, I won't either." Jason stood beside her. "You're not alone." The first hunter appeared at the edge of the barn. Sleek, black armor. No face, no voice, just movement. Jason triggered the first trap. A flash of light, a wave of heat. The hunter paused, turned. The second came through the field, fast. Ilya launched a small drone. It burst into sparks near its head. The hunter staggered, but kept coming. They weren't here to arrest. They were here to erase. Ilya stepped forward, her leg whirring. Sparks jumped from it, not from damage but power. Jason realized then, she had done something to it. Rewired it. Changed it. When the third hunter appeared, Ilya was already there to meet it. She moved differently now. Not like someone broken. Like someone ready. The hunter swung. Fast. Deadly. But she ducked, twisted, and fired a pulse from her knee. The ground cracked beneath them. Jason couldn't breathe. He wanted to help, but she was no longer the girl hiding in his shed. She was something else. The other 2 came at once. Jason hit the backup switch. The fence surged with current. One hunter dropped. The other staggered, just long enough for Ilya to hit it with a tool she had charged with energy from her ship's panel. Silence returned. Smoke rose from the ground. The barn was a mess. The traps were gone. Jason's tools burnt out. But they were alive. Ilya stood in the center of the field, her chest rising and falling. One hand on her knee, sparks flying again. Jason walked toward her slowly. "They're gone?" he asked. She nodded. "For now. You fought them like—" He shook his head. "Like you've done this before." She looked at him. "I've run before. I've hidden before. But this was the first time I stood. Jason smiled, tired. You stood pretty damn strong. She turned to him, quiet now. I don't know if they'll send more, she said. But I do know something else. What? They called me unfit, unworthy. But I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed one reason to stand. Jason looked at her. You, she said. And for the first time in a long time, Jason didn't feel small. He didn't feel ordinary. He felt like someone worth fighting for. And she wasn't running anymore. The smoke had faded. But the silence that followed didn't feel like peace. Felt like waiting. Ilya sat by the old wooden fence, her arms resting on her knees, her back to the horizon. She didn't move. Not even when the wind picked up or when the birds returned to the sky. Jason watched her from the porch. He didn't say anything. He just listened to the sound of her mechanical leg. Soft clicks, slow sparks. Like the heartbeat of a machine that had been pushed too far and was still trying to hold itself together. They had won. But it didn't feel like a victory. Not yet. Not when Ilya kept staring at the dirt like something was coming. Because something was. That night, she opened the small silver device again. The one she kept hidden in her jacket. She pressed her fingers to the center, and a low blue light hovered above her palm. Symbols moved in circles. A voice followed. This time it wasn't cold. It wasn't angry. It was official. A message from the throne. Jason walked into the room just as the voice ended. Ilya didn't look up. What did they say? He asked. They saw the battle, she said. They were watching. Jason frowned. They were spying on you? She nodded. The hunters weren't just for me. They were a test. They wanted to see what I would do. Jason's fists clenched. That's twisted. Ilya closed the device. They were impressed. They said I fought well. That I honored the bloodline. He stared at her. Wait, so now they want you back? She nodded once. They've called me home. Not as a failure, but as heir. Jason didn't speak right away. And neither did she. Because the air between them had changed. Finally, he asked, What are you going to do? She looked at him. I don't know. You don't have to go, he said. You have a home here. With us. I know, she said quietly. But that was the home I lost. The throne. The title. My people. They listened only after I fought. Not after I asked. Jason sat down across from her. So what now? You just leave and become their queen. Ilya looked down at her leg. It was still sparking. Still broken. But now it was more than metal. It had become a part of her that she no longer hated. I don't want to rule by fear, she said. But maybe I could rule with what I learned here. Jason looked at her. You mean kindness, forgiveness, honor? Yes, she said. And the strength to choose. At dawn, a ship appeared in the sky. Not crashing. Not burning. This one was clean. Sleek. Waiting. Ilya stood in the field, the wind catching her hair. Jason stood next to her, silent. I thought I came to this world to die in exile, she said. But I think I came here to remember how to live. Jason tried to smile. I guess this is where we say goodbye? She turned to him. Not goodbye. Just not yet hello. He frowned. Then she reached into her jacket and handed him a small cube, smooth, glowing faintly. He took it, confused. If I ever forget, she said. What it means to be strong the human way, play that. Jason turned the cube in his hands. What's on it? She smiled. Us. The ship waited. She stepped toward it slowly, limping slightly, but not hiding it. Her broken leg sparked as she climbed the ramp. Before the doors closed, she turned one last time. Her eyes met Jason's. Not as a stranger, not as someone saved, but as someone changed. And for the first time, she didn't feel like the girl they threw away. She felt like the leader they never deserved. The ship rose into the sky, silent and silver, leaving a trail of wind and dust. Jason stood alone in the field, watching it disappear. Then he looked at the cube in his hand. He didn't press it yet. He didn't need to, because she hadn't really left. Not all the way. She had given him something more permanent than a goodbye. She had given him the proof that even someone broken, forgotten, cast out by their own people, could find themselves again in the heart of a simple farm boy on a blue planet no one expected to matter. And maybe, just maybe, Earth had saved more than just one girl. It had changed a future that wasn't written yet. One day at a time. The stars looked smaller from the palace window. Ilya stood still, crown in her hands, the heavy golden thing that never quite fit. The chamber was silent behind her. No advisors, no guards, no voices calling her name. They had all seen her victory. They had all witnessed how she returned. Stronger, fiercer, full of the fire they had never expected from the girl they once left behind. They welcomed her with applause, with ceremony, with pride, but not with apology. Not one of them said, "We were wrong." Not one said, "We're sorry." She had been back for 3 weeks now, dressed in silks, walked in shadows of tall walls, her days filled with meetings, her nights with silence. They told her she could shape the future, but none asked what she had learned from the past. They celebrated her strength, but they still didn't understand where it had come from. Not from metal, not from war, but from something far more dangerous in a place they never cared to look. Human kindness. That night, Ilya returned to her private room, where no servants were allowed. She sat at the table in silence and reached into her coat. The cube was still there, small, glowing faintly, untouched. She turned it once in her hand, then pressed the center. It flickered, and then Jason's voice filled the room. "Hey," he said, laughing a little. "If you're watching this, you're probably ruling a galaxy or doing space princess stuff. So hi." Ilya smiled. It was the first real smile she'd had since she left Earth. Jason's voice continued. "I don't know what your people decided. Maybe they finally saw who you really are. Maybe they're still blind. But I really hope you didn't forget what you found here." A pause. "Because I didn't." On the screen, his face was softer than she remembered. Real. Human. Honest. "You taught me that strength isn't just power. It's standing for someone even when no one else will. You stood for me too, even when you were falling apart. And I'll never forget that." The recording glitched gently, then returned. "Wherever you are, remember this. You weren't broken. You were unfinished." And then, quietly, "And I miss you." Ilya closed her eyes. The sound ended, but the memory stayed. The next morning, the council stood in formation. The room was filled with light. Today, they were going to officially pass the title to her, Empress, ruler of 1,000 systems. The ceremony began. Ilya stood at the center of the room, still as stone, eyes forward. The head chancellor approached with the crown. "Ilya, daughter of the bloodline," he said, "do you accept your place as leader of this empire?" The crowd held its breath, but she didn't move. She looked down at the crown. Then she stepped back. "No," she said. The hall gasped. The chancellor blinked. "No?" She lifted her head. Her voice was calm. "I do not accept a place that only accepts me now that I am useful again. I do not accept a world that fears weakness more than it fears cruelty." She took one more step back. "I do not belong on this throne." The room was silent. Someone whispered her name. Another called for guards. But Ilya didn't wait. She turned and walked away. 3 days later, a small craft slipped out of the royal dock. No escort, no title, no orders, just her. And a quiet planet, blue and green, spinning alone in a part of space most of her people still called primitive. She landed near the barn, just like before. No smoke this time, no fear, only a breeze, the sound of distant laughter, and the smell of warm soil. Jason was fixing something near the fence. His hands were dirty, his hair a mess, but when he turned and saw her, he froze. Not like he couldn't believe it, but like something that had been missing suddenly returned. She didn't speak. She just walked toward him, slowly, with that same uneven step, sparks clicking quietly from her leg. He stood up, eyes wide. She stopped in front of him and handed him the crown. He looked at it, confused. "What's this?" Her voice was steady. They offered me everything. He waited. And I chose this. Jason didn't say anything. He just smiled. Softly, then took her hand. Not because she needed saving, but because she had saved herself. And now, she was home.